So President Biden's first official State of the Union is scheduled for March 1st, and we'll hear the president kind of recap his accomplishments over the first year in office, but also talk about what his agenda is ahead and what he'd like to accomplish in his second year and for the rest of his term. So far, we heard from the president last April in a joint session of Congress, kind of laying out his agenda and his vision for 100 days after he took office. But now this State of the Union, I think, will be a lot of him recapping what he was able to accomplish that he laid out last year. So the president, of course, has been really touting and traveling to promote his bipartisan infrastructure law. So I think a lot of the State of the Union will be focused on that. He's also sent out members of his cabinet, the vice president, the first lady, to talk about provisions of that law and even pinpoint some projects in different parts of the country that it will fund. And then, of course, a huge focus of the president's first year has been getting the pandemic under control, and that a lot of that includes also getting the economy bounced back. So, of course, I think he's going to promote the vaccination rate in the US and that he got Americans vaccinated, he got tests to households, he got masks to households. And those are all things that I think the administration would like to celebrate and really give themselves a pat on the back about. But then there's also the economy. I mean, the president in January had a much better than expected jobs report out. While the country is still dealing with high inflation and a disrupted supply chain, the president will also have to address how he plans to continue to improve those areas and make things better for Americans' pocketbooks. Another issue for the president is, of course, his Build Back Better agenda, which stalled before the new year because it didn't have the votes in the Senate to pass after the House passed it. The White House now is looking at passing it through a pared down version or breaking up pieces of it, and certain provisions will pass. He's largely been focused on provisions like climate, provisions including childcare funding and lowering prescription drug costs. So we could see him talking about these specific elements as opposed to the Build Back Better agenda as a whole. But that kind of messaging could be disappointing to progressives who have actually called on him to use this State of the Union as a deadline to pass Build Back Better and actually sign that bill. So with the upcoming midterm elections, this is really an opportunity for the president to try to show wins for Democrats, and so that vulnerable Democrats in swing states, of course, Senate and House members can go back to their states and point to these accomplishments that the president mentions in his speech and run on these elements. So the House Sergeant of Arms has said that all members of Congress can attend this State of the Union, but there are some COVID protocols in place to make sure that everybody is protected. So all member offices got a memo that basically said that attendees have to present a negative COVID test within 1 day of the speech. And they also all have to wear a KN or an N95 mask to allow some extra protection for them. So from the Sergeant of Arms office, they didn't say that members had to be vaccinated, which was kind of interesting in order to attend the speech, but it's strongly recommended for attendees to be vaccinated and boosted. Another change that will be around the Capitol is that the fencing is going back up. That fencing was up for a long time following the January 6th protests. And now for the State of the Union address, the Capitol Police are bracing for this Freedom Convoy truck protest that's expected to come to Washington on March 1st to align with the State of the Union. So because the Capitol Police is aware of these trucker protests, they've decided to put the fencing back up in order to be extra cautious for the State of the Union.